These past few months have resulted in some deep wounds, often from people that are, or used to be, very close to us. We've been told that we should not hold a grudge, that we should let go of everything. But I think we're missing a bigger truth. Could it be that it's good to hold a grudge? We don't want to walk around with resentment or unforgiveness because those only hurt us, as we know. So how could holding a grudge be a positive thing? Maybe it's about remembering what someone did to you or did to someone you love versus pretending nothing happened. For the purpose of protecting yourself in the future, the idea is that you don't just forget harmful things people do to you. Beloved, there's deep wisdom in that. There's a real balance in all of this, and in today's powerful episode, we talk about all of it.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
Well, hello and welcome to the FreedHearts podcast. My name is Robert Cottrell and I'm here as always with
Susan Cottrell.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for listening. Please do connect with us at freedhearts.org. That's where everything that we do, including our brand new t-shirt shop, our merch shop, is all the information on that is right there. Most of that's on the resources page, so please check it out. Also remember, as we talk about grudges and forgiveness and things like that today, if you would like some life coaching, counseling type sessions, Susan, you do that on a very limited basis as your time is very limited. But if you're interested in that, either for an individual or a couple, just email us at hello@freedhearts.org, or there's a connect with us link there on the website, and we'll get you all the details on that. Well, in recent months, a lot of us have been wounded in some pretty deep ways. People we are or used to be close to have done things, supported things that have hurt us or those we love. And that's caused a lot of resentment in me, caused me to have some grudges. I feel them every day. I feel that kind of resentment and anger every day. I don't like it. And I feel like it's draining my joy and my energy. And I know that's not a good thing.
Okay, well, it just so happens that I just listened to a really interesting book called How to Hold a Grudge. It's by Sophie Hannah. And Sophie Hannah was asked by she's a mystery writer, was asked by the Agatha Christie estate to write more Poirot mysteries, which is a huge thing, Hercule Poirot. And she does that, and they're great. I've listened to some of them, so I was looking for more of those. Well, this book, How to Hold a Grudge, kept coming up. I was like, okay. And I listened to it. And it was really good. It was really interesting. One more, this public service announcement. If you don't know that your library has books available to listen to, you don't have to leave your home.
Yeah.
You just go on the app, and they have a Libby app through the library where you can just find a book and listen to it, easy peasy, or read it on your phone. And it's so convenient. I've listened to so many books that way.
Libraries are amazing.
They're amazing. As long as we still have them, let's use them. So here's the book, How to Hold a Grudge. And her whole premise is that it's good to hold a grudge. And I know, I said the same thing. What? We're supposed to let go of everything. We got to forgive. And it's true. And she says that. We must forgive for ourselves, for our own well-being, just like you've heard a million times.
I would say that again. Like, we must forgive for ourselves.
Right.
For our well-being.
And for our own well-being. And we've heard that a million times. But holding a grudge.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was a better phrase than grudge. I mean, is there a better phrase than that?
Me too.
You know?
Well, let's kind of get to it and we'll see here.
Okay.
But holding a grudge, the way she tells it, is not about not forgiving. It's not about resentment and certainly bad behavior toward the grudgee, she calls it. It's not about that. We don't want to walk around with resentment or unforgiveness because those only hurt us. As we know, the Course in Miracles says to forgive everyone for everything, which I love. And Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now, and grudge holding doesn't seem to be a part of that, or rather, unforgiveness doesn't seem to be a part of that. And Buddhist teaching says that our pain and suffering come from having unmet desires and expectations. So forgiving is necessary. But we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Well, then what does Sophie Ann, I love that name, by the way. What does she mean by holding a grudge?
Okay. She's saying that you want to remember what someone did to you versus pretending that nothing happened.
Can you say that again?
You want to remember what someone did to you versus pretending nothing happened for the purpose of protecting yourself in the future.
That's really good.
And the idea is that you don't just forget harmful things people do to you. There's wisdom in that.
Yeah.
So, listening to the whole thing, I realized that her premise made sense. And one thing we've learned from the conservative church is that just to reject people you disagree with or don't like leads to a lot of fractures. It's breaking us into smaller and smaller bits.
And at the same time, they teach us to just let go of offenses against us and pretend that the hurt wasn't real.
Yes, which is diminishing and erasing.
That doesn't work.
And it doesn't work. And when we do that, we dishonor ourselves. So the author uses the example that in history class, we don't just cut out the bad things that happen because we don't like them. Well, there's, okay.
Well,
it's written
we're
by
not
the victor,
supposed
yes.
to cut out. There's
that. That's that whole dark underbelly of stuff we don't admit.
Couldn't help it.
But yeah. But we teach about the wars and the genocides in the hopes that we can learn something and do better. That's why we say never forget. And in fact, we build memorials to commemorate, to remember those bad things that happened. That's the whole idea behind war memorials and all those museums in Washington, D.C., the Museum of African American History and Culture, the Museum of the American Indian, the Holocaust Memorial Museum, just to name three.
And there's also an International Spy Museum, which is not really relevant here at all.
No, it's not really relevant.
It came to mind.
Yes, and that's a good one to see. Okay.
Thanks for your support.
So maybe instead of calling it a grudge, to go back to your question, maybe we could call it a memorial.
I like that.
Yeah. Or call it a grudge. That's great. But I think memorials
Think of it even, yeah.
Yeah. So our grudges represent a vital part of our emotional history. So these stories make up a part of our life story that we want to honor these stories and the lessons we learned from them that played a key role in making us the people we are today. I mean, the author is serious about this. She talks about building a grudge cabinet, not literally, where you carefully curate and store your grudges. And once I listened to the whole book, it really made sense. It really did. She has a grudge scoring system and everything. So based on the circumstances, the intention behind it, whether the person owns it or apologizes, how much heat you still have on it, all of that, how much it still hurts you, all of that goes into what kind of grudge this is. So, but what she's saying is you want to file away these grudges to protect you from future invasion. Like, fool me once, that's on you. Fool me twice, maybe it would have served me to pay better attention or implement stronger boundaries and said no as needed, etc. Right? So it's what it is about bearing witness to your own story and your own pain. It's not talking about resenting someone, hating someone, or withholding forgiveness. It is acknowledging the truth of what happened so that you feel validated and vindicated. Oh, so to be very clear, and she says it several times, holding a grudge is not the same as unforgiveness. You can completely forgive, which you want to do for your own well-being for all the reasons we all know and talk about, but also a grudge for your own vindication and validation. Yeah. It is necessary. It's kind of the opposite of gaslighting.
It's about remembering.
Yes.
Yes. And adjusting to move forward.
Yes. And there's a lot of pressure from our conflict-averse families and church and culture that push us to forgive and forget, move on, don't hold it against them. I always remember right after a shooting, this one of the many school shootings, that there were people holding up signs saying, "We forgive you." Like, the bodies weren't cold, sorry about that, but it was like, are you kidding me? And it just, to jump to forgiveness undercuts everything, and it wipes out all accountability.
Well, let me share an example from my personal experience here.
Yeah.
We had a situation with actually two of the kids, but when they were early, they were abused by a babysitter. They were very young, and they were abused by an 18-year-old babysitter. Long story there. Someone that was plugged into the church, worked with the children, a youth leader, and anyway, and I felt, and there was a trial, and it was front page news where we were at the time, and there was a trial, and of course they attacked me and us. I was the outcry witness, and
they do everything to discredit you.
And attacked the kids. It wasn't just our family. There was another family that he did it to as well. But on the stand at the end, I felt compelled to tell him that I forgave him. And I did. However, it certainly forever changed how I was with anybody watching our children.
Yes.
From that point on. You know what I mean? I didn't forget.
Yes.
I learned from that.
Yes.
I forgave to help get rid of that resentment and the negative thoughts in me towards another person.
Yeah.
But I certainly remembered.
Yes. And your forgiveness didn't get him out of the courtroom.
No,
he still
had to pay
accountable.
his price. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
He was convicted, by the way.
Yeah. But I did remember, and I did adjust, and I did move forward. And so, yeah. So forgiveness, it does not mean to forget. Forgiveness is vital to our well-being, but forgetting what people have done and pretending they haven't done it is counter to our well-being, right? It would be unwise to ride in a car with someone who has had wrecks and whose driving scares you. It would be, denial to pretend the person who's repeatedly vicious to you doesn't really mean to be vicious. And it would be irresponsible to let that babysitter ever be near the kids again, or anyone you feel uncomfortable with. So if the powers that be of our church, of our state, gave as much weight to accountability as to forgiveness, our world would look very different. For example, when a powerful pastor du jour is credibly called out for wrongdoing, insert offense here, the wrongdoer is often protected while the ones who called them out are told to forgive, coerced to forgive, quote, for the good of the ministry. We've all seen that, right? Or they're outright vilified. And perhaps holding a grudge is like a personal little black book of accountability. To follow up a little bit on that story and what you just said.
Yeah.
By the way, when all this came out, I was a leader in that church.
Yeah.
A worship leader in that church. It was a big mega church.
Yeah.
And this boy and his family were also leaders in the Awana program, and he was involved in the children's ministry and all that kind of stuff. And the church's position was, well, we know the accusations from your family and from this other family, but we're going to wait and see what the court says. And you both need to step down until the court decides. And so
this whole
to protect the so the church would not have to deal with a scandal in the church.
Right.
It could take the high road and be non-committal and protect itself. That's why the church took that position. They since have
after
apologized.
That, they said they badly failed.
Yeah.
You had this whole, it was like an Easter production prepared or whatever you were doing. You were the music director or whatever for that. And anyway, and they ended your involvement in it.
Yeah.
And so it looked like you.
Right. Everyone watching this said, well, it could be.
Oh, yeah, something's wrong with him. Yeah, so instead of taking a position, you have been credibly accused, teenager, by more than one family,
4 children,
4 children. So you have to step down.
Yeah, we're siding with the oppressed.
Yeah. Right. And I know it's not proven in court yet, but step down until we have an answer. But you, Dad, clearly have done nothing wrong. You go ahead with the program. So anyway, that's the conflict avoidance that does no good.
Again, for the good of the ministry, for the good of the church, not the good of any of the families involved.
Right.
For the good of the church.
Yeah. And when you see pastors protected and passed on around churches that you know, or babysitters passed around churches without anybody knowing their past, that is so wrong.
Well, we talked last week about the movie Spotlight, which talked about the Catholic Church and the abuse by priests of children. And when that was discovered, do you know what the church did for decades and decades and decades? It just moved that priest to another parish.
Yeah.
Another area.
Unconscionable.
Why? To protect the church and the money and the power and the influence. Forget the kids.
Forget the kids. So after this came down, and he was found guilty, he started to go to another church. But we, the 4 parents involved here, had notified. I think that was you who started that. We notified local churches about him, and one church said, "Oh, he tried to come here," and we said, "You can come escorted and sit in the pews. You are not to go anywhere else in the church." And they said, "We've dealt with this before," and it just gave me chills to say, you are doing the right action to protect people from a pedophile.
Yeah, it was not about vengeance or getting back at anyone. It was about remembering so the same thing doesn't happen again to us, to you, to anyone.
Yes.
Remembering so the same thing doesn't happen again.
Yes.
So that is kind of what she's talking about when she says, hold a grudge.
Yes.
Just don't forget.
But if it's unable to find justice in that situation, holding a grudge, holding a memorial in your heart is a way to say, this happened, this was wrong, and protecting yourself from it.
Yeah.
So,
and
this on a very smaller scale. I had a friend a long time ago I was always there for her. But when I needed her, she was not there. And she was really important to me. We were best friends, and it would have been easy to just write off her unavailability. It's not just she was busy. It was she wasn't there for me. And it would be easier to just say, well, whatever excuse I might give her negligent behavior. But the harder thing, the truer thing, was to recognize this neglect as part of a pattern that I'd been unwilling to see before that, because it's my personality, or it was then, to make excuses for people's bad behavior if the person is important to me. That was in my 40s. I don't do that so much anymore. But it was a turning point where I pulled back and shared less of my heart with her. And you don't want to become a more withheld person overall, where that distorts you into something you wouldn't have been. But you also want to know, my heart is not safe with her. I care more about this than she does, and my heart is not safe with her.
Well, I think by remembering, by holding a grudge, again, to use that phrase again, that helps you not become more withdrawn, because who you are remembering is defined instead of everybody hurts me.
That's a really great way to look at that.
It helps you define, this person did this person, but not everybody's like that.
Like if you say, I was molested by a man, so therefore I don't like men.
Yeah.
That's different than
That's right.
I don't
that's
like
right.
that man.
So it does
And
actually
I
free
understand.
you up to be more vulnerable.
Yeah. And I know more what to look for.
In a good way. In a good
yes.
way.
Yes. Okay. Ooh, this is a deep thing, isn't it? And here's a profound truth. The best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, and it protects you not to share your heart more than someone deserves. And you say, well, can't people change? Of course, we all change, but you want to see the change, not assume it. If they have transgressed, it's in their plate to show their change first. So, you want to see the evidence of regret, remorse, understanding of what they've done before you reset the relationship to ground zero. And if you allow yourself to be taken advantage of repeatedly, then you become a victim and you give away all your power. And I've done that in my past, and it's not a good thing. Again, we're not talking about not forgiving. Forgiveness is a huge value that nurtures good vibes and good health and, not getting cancer because you carry resentment around all the time. But that doesn't mean a reset on bad behavior that is egregious, which that word means outstandingly bad or shocking. And it's either a single egregious act or maybe several smaller acts of bad behavior that reveal a pattern of carelessness and disrespect. So does that make sense? Did everything I said make sense? Okay. Now, let me say something about resentment, desire for revenge, and making someone pay. Those are all things you don't want to do. I'm pretty sure you want to be a good person. You know that being vengeful, resentful are not the place you want to live. And you already know that these aren't the end goal. But sometimes, hear me here, sometimes these are the places you need to go to get out of your depression or beating yourself up or blaming yourself or feeling awful. In other words, when you're trying not to resent other people, when you're afraid of your anger or indignation, then you turn it inward on yourself because you don't feel safe turning it outward. Okay? So I was on a call with someone, a coaching session, and she was saying how her family had treated her. I mean, it was awful, but she couldn't express her anger at them, or even to me. She'd been so conditioned against feeling any anger. And I said, anger at those who have hurt you is a step up out of the depressed place you are right now. You cannot get from those dark heart places to feeling joyful and happy in one step. You have to take partway steps, like a wide stream. You don't just step across it, but you find stepping stones to help you get you over there. And don't worry if you're, so those, that anger and resentment are stepping stones to feeling better, because they move the dial on your emotions, and you just keep raising your level to a place that's happier and freer over time. But don't be afraid of those steps along the way. And also, you may be stuck in anger and revenge for a little while. That's okay. You were probably stuck in those places of darkness for a while, much longer probably. So it's okay to take your time like that. I told her all this, and she said, that is the most helpful thing I've ever heard about anger and about my depression.
Wow. I mean, that's powerful. You were basically saying, hey, it's okay to hold a grudge against these people.
Yes. Yes.
And you want to share your story.
Hold a grudge, which is that will continue without bad effect, and the anger and resentment and unforgiveness, even, those are temporary steps to help you get to a better place. Yeah. But the grudge is different, and it stays.
Now, you always want to share your story in a safe space.
Yeah.
You're witnessed by a safe person, as she was doing with you.
Yeah.
Not someone who's going to turn on you.
Yes. Don't share your precious heart with people who are going to misunderstand you. Okay. But I just want to be clear, this was not about her expressing her anger or resentment or whatever to them, which in her case would probably not have been safe. And I'm sure you can relate. But what it does when she curates this grudge and puts it in her grudge cabinet is it turns that wrath really away from herself, which, she does not deserve that wrath. And on to those who deserve it by their actions and attitudes. And this gets it out of her and gives her a stepping stone to move on to feeling better that will come over time. I'm giving you a really, this is a postgraduate level understanding here to help you really get out of this flummox, this trap of not knowing what to do with your feelings.
Dark place, dark basement.
Yes, and dark feelings that you have toward people and you think you're not supposed to have them.
And like you said, it gets you out of that and gives stepping stones to move on to better feelings that will come over time.
Yes.
So, beloved, don't be afraid to hold a grudge. Don't be afraid to feel bad towards someone instead of being a, quote, good person and swallowing it all down, just taking it all in, keeping it all in, which ends up hurting you.
Yeah.
Beloved, we love you, and we thanks for sharing this, Susan. This was really...
You're welcome. If you have questions about it, email me, because this kind of went deep. Or also, get that book, listen to the book.
Yeah, the book is great. And again,
How to Hold a Grudge.
If you want to consider a coaching session with Susan, let us know that, or just email us podcast@freedhearts.org.
Yeah.
If you have a question or something that you just need more clarity on. So
yes,
again, we love you. Next week, we have something very special, an encore presentation about how the Bible affirms transgender people. Well, we really need that right now, don't we? So you do not want to miss that one. So we love you. We'll talk to you next week.
We love you. Bye.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
You've been listening to the Freed Hearts Podcast. We have extensive resources and vibrant, inclusive community for you at freedhearts.org. Please just come say hello. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for the podcast, just email us at podcast@freedhearts.org. Audio engineering is provided by Luke Johnson. The music is provided by our daughter, Hannah Cottrell, who is Grammy nominated. You can find out more about her and her music at hannahcottrell.com. Please share, subscribe, and follow on your favorite platform, and support us if you can. Thanks for listening.